Namaskar and welcome to the Kashmir Festival organized by a Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora in association with I Am Buddha. So today's episode will be talking about Kashmir as Aarogya Bhoomi. And we have an expert panel of speakers with us who I'm going to introduce in a minute. But before that, everybody knows that it's a well known fact that Kashmir has always been the epicenter of various civilizations, especially the Vedic. But the fact which is slightly lesser known is that Kashmir has also been the fountainhead of various health systems, most notably the Ayurveda system, about which we are going to talk later. Now, Charaka, the great Rishi Charaka, he was born in Kashmir. That this was thousands of years back. I think it was around 200 BC, and he was the author of the very well-known Charaka Samhita, which has been the kind of it has been the epicenter of Ayurveda, and then the Western medicines have kind of taken off from there. Uh, so that is how Kashmir was. The health systems were established in Kashmir, and since then, if we look at contemporary health systems, again, Kashmir has produced lots of exceptional doctors, physicians, very well renowned, and some of them we are going to meet today. So, on that note, let me introduce our panel. We have Dr. Chand Ban. Dr. Chand Ban is a well-known psychiatrist. He graduated from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and then he did his psychiatric training in US, and has been a very internationally renowned in USA. He is a life member of American Psychiatric Association, and he has also been bestowed the gold medal for his work in psychiatry. So, very warm welcome, Dr. Chand Bhan. We also have with us Dr. Dharna Ganjoo. Dr. Dharna Ganjoo is a consultant in Ayurveda. She is based in Singapore at the moment, and she has done a lot of work in. She has a diverse experience in treating patients with various health conditions, especially women's health, weight management, to name a few. She's a well known proponent of holistic therapies. She has been a speaker at multiple events talking about Ayurveda and conducted workshops. She graduated from Medical College Srinagar, Medical College in South India, and now she is working abroad in Singapore. So welcome, Dharna. So a very warm welcome to the panel today. But before we go to the panel, we have a very special guest today, and our guest is Rakesh Kaul, who is a very well-known entrepreneur and also a keen historian of Kashmir. He has a keen interest in Kashmir's history. Now, he is going to start off this session today by talking about the health systems and the health frameworks that were used in Kashmir, and which were then spread internationally and picked up by various health systems. So he is going to talk about the Pratibha that was the basis in Kashmir, and the Yogdan of Kashmir. So these are the two facets Rakesh Kaulji will be touching on. So let's start with Rakesh Kaulji. Very warm welcome, Rakesh Kaulji, to this episode of Aarogya Bhoomi. We are very excited to have you because you have done a lot of research in Kashmir history and its health models. So over to you, Rakesh Kaulji.
Thank you, Shafalica ji, and namaskar to Chan ji, and also to you, Dharna. I salute you because you are the proud upholders of the most sacred transmission out of Kashmir. And that concerns itself with health and wellness. Shafalica ji, you mentioned the great name of Charaka, who wrote the first treatise on medicine in the world and is considered to be the greatest repository of Indian science. But Charaka was followed, he was not a one man wonder. Our grand civilization has ancestors like Sushruta, Dridabhala, and many others. Charaka started with a very simple thesis that the purpose of this, what he called the science of life, is longevity in its ultimate form, seeking immortality. Its purpose is to protect the health of the hale and elevation of those who were ailing. And I think the audience will find it interesting that he was the first one, as they say, first do no harm. He was the first one who warned against quacks. He described them as messengers of death. In fact, he said one could escape Yama, but not a quack. And the English word quack is likely to have come from the Sanskrit term, and you know, Kashmir was a Sanskrit civilization, from the Sanskrit term kuhaka, meaning cunning and sinful. It's not my purpose here to recommend that all of us read Charaka and follow all the practices there. But familiarizing ourselves with that body of knowledge gives very interesting benefits. There are concepts there which are eternal. For example, would you find it interesting if I said that Charaka was the first one to study the phenomena of what is called the scent of death? Today, modern science is now researching that subject furiously. In fact, there is now technology that seeks to detect the smell of cancer. There are dogs that are being trained to smell cancer, which provide earlier advanced detection of cancer versus any other tool. Charaka's medical examination by touch, the checklist he lays out is still the gold standard. Sushruta was the first to recommend dissection practice training for doctors, the first to identify skin diseases like leprosy, the first to pioneer surgery for rhinoplasty. But ultimately, these books are must reads for the layman, perhaps under the tutelage of a trainer like Dharna. Kashmir Aarogya Bhoomi was blessed with nature yielding herbs that provide the basis of modern medicine. Sushruta lists over 700 herbal supplements. Today we know that antioxidants are a highly recommended supplement. But it is Charaka who wrote in 200 BC of all the anti-aging and immunity-enhancing therapies, gooseberry, amla, is revered as one of the most potent and nourishing supplements. Gooseberry is the best amongst rejuvenative herbs. The Charaka framework defined health as movement. movement of the body, the mind, the heart, the spirit. It's an amazing definition of what is a healthy human being. And by definition, the Charaka was a holistic physician. They understood that an unhealthy mind would create an unhealthy body. This holistic approach is now one that is gaining currency. But Charaka even went to the extent of saying explicitly, and I will give you his exact words, eating at regular hours is the foremost of all acts that leads to health. He goes on and says, indulgence in exercise and exertion in harmony with the physical system is the foremost of all indulgence. He tells us, cut your hair, shave, and pare your nails thrice a fortnight. But he also tells us once every 6 months, go to a spa. This was incredible, incredible knowledge, and it is eternal knowledge. Why were Kashmiri physicians so respected that people came from all over the world? It wasn't only because of their knowledge. The Charaka code of conduct I would submit to you is the strongest code of conduct today. One can certainly conform to the Hippocratic Oath, one can conform to the Indian Medical Association Oath, but I can tell you those doctors who, in addition, live up to the Charaka Oath, their brand will always be at the pinnacle. Three great doctors that inspire us forever. The first, of course, is the Vaid, living in Padmapur, who cured a local Naga chief, and in doing so, the Naga chief, in gratitude, gave him a Kesar bulb. Thus was born saffron cultivation in Pampur. The second great physician in our community. When Zainuddin got a poisonous boil, no court physician could cure him because his rotten, sadistic father, Sikandar Butchi Khan, had driven out all the Kashmiri Pandits in what was the first genocide of the Kashmiri Pandit community. No Kashmiri Pandit physician could be found. Finally, the servants of Zainuddin found Sri Bhatta, who was hiding, but they convinced him to come. And when he arrived, he cured the king. The king said, I will give you whatever gifts you want. The luminous Sri Bhatta refused to accept any gift. But when pressed hard, he requested the king to remove jizya on the Kashmiri Brahmins and that they be allowed to lead a full moral life that represented their way of life. And it is from that moment that Zainuddin converted himself from his fanatic ideology of the father and became human. So it was not just his poisonous boil that was cured, it was his mental programming that was cured. The last and final physician to inspire us is Major Pandit Pyare Lal Atal. He was serving the British Army in World War I as a medical officer. He was captured by the Germans while treating a wounded officer, but then rescued. While he was treating the British soldiers in the hospital, it was struck by a German shell. He was only 43 years old when he died on November 23 in 1940. He was a grandson of the Prime Minister of Jaipur state. He had served in China in 1900 and received a medal for his services. He was an extraordinary cricketer, but because he was a specialist ENT, which was in demand because of gas warfare, he had been asked to come and do duty. In France, in a graveyard, there is a memorial to him. But Major Pandit Pyarelal Atal had 5 children, and one of his sons, Hira Atal, became the first general out of the Kashmiri Pandit community. Truly, we come from a civilization that has served humanity. You are its living exponents. I thank you for giving me the time, and may you and the work you do in the footsteps of Charaka continue to inspire our community forever.
Thank you so much, Rakeshi. That was so illuminating listening to what our forefathers did centuries ago. And like you said yourself, holistic therapies are the way forward, and treating the whole person rather than just focusing on the symptoms of an illness or a disease is not I mean, the Western medicine. That's not the way things are at the moment. Especially, I can tell you about my own profession, psychiatry. We use the biopsychosocial model, which was used centuries ago, and that's again used now. So thank you, Rakesh, you for that. And we very nicely move on to Dr. Dharna Ganjoo. She is an Ayurvedic physician for over 12 years. So you can say that Dharna is carrying the Charaka's vision forward in the present day. Dharna, you also work at the Arya Vaidya Pharmacy for over 6 years now, and very interesting work you have done that. Do you want to tell us more about why you took to Ayurveda, and what is your own contribution to Ayurveda? And looking back at centuries ago, how do you think Kashmir and the health models that were used in Kashmir have influenced your own work going forward? Thank you, Dharna.
Thank you, Shafali ji, and I really thank Rakesh ji for giving such a brief and good introduction about our heritage, our Kashmiri heritage, which goes back thousands years ago. So myself, I during the time after the 12th standard and all, I was always interested going to the medical field, and Ayurveda was very new to me. Since one of my cousins was in that, I was influenced by his ideologies and ideas and how he used to treat patients. That made me explore more on this field. However, it was not very famous during those times. But as I did my course in south of India from Rajiv Gandhi University, it is a 5.5 years of course. A detailed medicinal course where we have to correlate it with the modern methodologies and ideologies. We have to learn both because we know we are going in a field where we have to explain it to everyone. And my passion towards it grew during my study years. From there, my journey began. I went to first Ayush Trust. I just did an internship for a year, and then I came to Singapore, where fortunately worked as a. I'm working as a senior consultant. Ayurveda pharmacy is a setup in 1949 back then. It's one of the oldest Ayurvedic setups, apart from Kottakal Ayurveda Shala. So being there, being in a new country and trying to explain it to people what Ayurveda is, but it is really heartwarming that people have accepted it with open arms, and they understand and they realize the importance of it. And we have seen over a decade shift in the global point of view. People are turning from from modern medicine towards the preventive medicine, so which is a very good mental shift in people nowadays. So I have been working, I have been treating patients with a lot of health conditions. I have been invited speaker at various public events, and also the Esplanade libraries. I go there, I conduct free talks, I do paid talks to build up the awareness about Ayurveda in the local public in Singapore. TCM is already prevalent here, but Ayurveda has grown over the 10 years here. So I think this is a passion which has grown over the period of time. And I'm really proud of what I'm doing and passionate about it. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah.
Carry on, yes.
So I will just move on to our heritage, our rich culture. We have known Kashmir for its external beauty. World knows the external beauty of Kashmir, the sceneries and all. But what most of people don't know is the rich culture and knowledge Kashmiri Pandits had since thousands of years. And Ayurveda has three basic literatures, or you can say treatises, on which the whole theory and whole medicine of Ayurveda is based. It is called as Brihatrayis, the three great trio in Ayurveda. And these three Brihatrayis are Charak Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, and Ashtanga Sangraha. All these three treaties, starting from Charaka Samhita. Charaka is considered as father of Indian medicine. What least people know is that we know only about Hippocrates, who is father of medicine, but who was born 2 centuries after Sushruta, after Charaka. And Charaka's contribution to the Hippocrates oath, his oath was more detailed, as Rakesh ji said earlier. His oath was detailed and more on the moral conduct of Vaidya. You can see, for an example, he said while entering a patient's house, a physician should take some time to know a person who is a patient, and he should keep his head low. He should not do eye contact to everyone. He should only think about how he is going to treat the patient and what his module should be. The purpose was that he doesn't get distracted during this time. The attendant has to be with the female patient when Vaidya is seeing her. So there were many interesting facts and the conduct which Sushruta has advised the Vaidyas to do. They should not wear bright clothes. They should wear very normal and light colored clothes. They should not be overly dressed. Their main aim should be dharma, artha, and kama should be the least priority for the Vaidya. He should treat anybody who is in requirement of the treatment. He should not see if he is rich, he is poor. All the status should not be considered as the conduct as the Vaidya. So these are very beautiful terms with Charaka, who was born in Kashmir, who has given such a rich knowledge about it. Now, Charaka contributed, he has given a detailed explanation about the examination of the patient. It should be darshana, sparshana, and prashna, means you should diagnose a patient by looking at him. You should do a detailed questioning to the patient about his health condition. Then touching, palpitation, you should palpate the patient. You should not be we never used to go for an extensive radiological or other examination. but just by touching, by questioning, and by looking at the patient, the diagnosis should be done. He has also said the Vaidya, the doctor, should have a sharp memory power if you are looking forward to be in the doctor profession. Not anyone and anybody can be a doctor. So these are the contributions of Acharya Charaka. Actually, Charaka Samhita was written by Agni Vesha, and Acharya Charaka remodulated and re-edited, and it was famously known as Charaka Samhita. But after few centuries, Charaka Samhita's famous lot of its papers were destroyed due to invasions and other things. Again, we had Acharya Dridabala, who was a Kashmiri Pandit, son of Kapila Bala, who again put an effort to complete the Charaka Samhita. He added additional chapters, more 17 chapters to Charaka Samhita. And after that, Charaka Samhita became even more famous in 19th century. There is another of our Acharya Vagbhata, which is the second most important treatise in Ayurveda, as I said earlier, that is Ashtanga Hridaya. He made the compilation of Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita in such an easy, poetic, beautiful way that even a person with least intellect can understand it. So he made it approachable. He put his hard work and effort to make it approachable even to a person with the least intellect. So I would what more I can say. Charaka, he made 8 branches of Ayurveda, which dealt with ENT, which is Shalakya Tantra, which dealt with pediatrics, which dealt with the immune system, which dealt with Damstra, that is toxicology and forensics was very prevalent there. And we get the reference in Mahabharata, where a Vaidya has to test the food before it goes to a king or a prince. And also some animals were made to test before it goes to the prince. So there were certain symptoms of the animals will show after having a poison, and they used to detect what kind of poison was being given to the Raja or the Vaidya. Then there is aphrodisiac, the treatment in aphrodisiac branch, then immunology, as I said. So 8 branches of medicine were created, were laid out by Acharya Charaka at that time. So Acharya Charaka, Acharya Dridabala, and Acharya Vagbhata, all being from Kashmir origin, is we should be immensely proud that we come from such a rich medical heritage, and which is a gift from Kashmiri Pandits to the world. And world is adapting now it in a huge scale. There are a lot of researches going on, Ayush Ministry supporting it. Even WHO has now registered India as the center for research for traditional medicines. So I think I will conclude here. And I am really thankful for you inviting me today. And I really hope that we will bring the mission of bringing up or highlighting our contribution to the world, a Kashmiri Pandit's contribution to the world on this platform. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Dharna. It was fascinating to hear what you said and our illustrious history. And if we talk about now contemporary physicians, and we will go to Dr. Bhan in a minute. So while growing up in Kashmir, as you said, because the tradition was the doctor was considered, he wasn't brought in just to treat the symptom of the disease. He was brought in to treat the environment, the social milieu, everything around the patient. So the whole patient was treated. And that was the tradition we grew up with. And a lot of Kashmiri Pandit doctors, they have now gone abroad in United States, United Kingdom, all over Europe. And they have carried that special tradition with me. And even though some of us are, what we call as focused on biological treatments, but we know because of our traditions and because of how we were educated, is that holistic therapies are the way forward. So thank you, Dharna, for that, and wish
Thank you,
you
Shafali.
good luck in propagating the Kashmiri traditions across the world. So,
Thank you.
so welcome, Dr. Bhan. You are a psychiatrist based in United States, and you graduated from Government Medical College, Srinagar, and then you are both an internist and a psychiatrist. So that's a great combination, I must say, because you can look at the physical and the mental aspects both at the same time. That's what it's needed in today's times. But while we are talking about holistic therapies and the effect of the environment and the lifestyle on illnesses, a very catastrophic event happened to Kashmiri Pandits in the 1990s, where the whole population was overnight made homeless. And from the cool climates of living in the foothills of Himalayas, we were forced to live in really hot, temperate climates with a very hostile and physical environment in some cases. And that is bound to take a toll on the mental health of the community. And you have done some ground-breaking work in working with refugees from Srinagar, 1990 onwards. You have attended various camps over the years, and you have assessed people. You have provided your expertise, and we will talk about that. There was a seminal work done in mid 90s around mental illnesses in the refugee population, and I remember reading it, and I was really shocked at the incidence and the prevalence of mental illness after the exit. It's not a surprise. You can almost imagine that this is going to happen, but the scale of the illness was quite high. And things like, and some of them were very unrecognized. You know, we talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a very well recognized entity in the West, but it was not even recognized at that time. And now, decades later, no, we are looking at community members who are still suffering the after effects of the forced migration. So Dr. Ban, welcome, and I would really invite you to give your views on the effect of the exodus on the mental and the physical health of our community members. We talked with Dharna about our tradition, how it used to be, and then having this catastrophic event happen to us, how it changed us. And your own contribution, Dr. Ban, and what do you think is the way forward? Thank you.
Thank you for letting me this opportunity to discuss this very important subject. As you can see, you highlighted some of the things that we have gone through. I mean, it was a major event that we cannot even describe. Suddenly, people were thrown out of their homes and had to be, you know, thrown out into a place where they had no knowledge. And a lot of them came from rural areas, villages, who were really not, who had never left the valley, and they were suddenly thrown into a warm, hot climate with no place to live. Many of them, obviously, as you know, went into the camps. And this was a traumatic event for all of those people who had to go through this ordeal. And the manifestation of this were profound. I mean, the intensity, the gravity, I mean, it is so amazing. As you said, it was not even noticed for a while that what the physical symptoms that were showing by the patients were deeply rooted in their psyche and their mental health. The common problems was, of course, depression. It was very, very obvious. People were helpless, hopeless with all the manifestation of depression, sleeplessness, agitation, anxiety. Then some of them had panic events. And of course, the major was the post-traumatic stress disorder, which is what they saw. I mean, these are people who are deprived of their homes, deprived of their properties, deprived of their dignity, and all their life savings were washed out. And then at the end, the fear of death. I mean, they were confronted with a situation where they didn't know they will survive or not, because many did lose their lives. And we know of several people whose very close family members have lost their life in this unfortunate event. And as you can imagine, as the people started to settle down in the camps, they were subjected to so many kind of adversities and so many challenges that they were not equipped. And as you know, the resources, the help that they got was very small, and they were not really given what they needed. And even now, as you can see, we have gone almost 30 years beyond that point what it started. There are still some people who are struggling and have not completely recovered from the impact of the exodus. I can tell you that besides the mental health issues, as you can see, as I am also interested in the medical, physical part of the body, there was a very high incidence of diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. I mean, you can imagine there is a lot of people that went through this, and many people suffered through chronic kidney disease, needing a lot of help with their ailments, and eventually some of them leading the dialysis. Now, I was fortunate in 2008, I had the opportunity to go and visit the Shiabat Charitable Clinic, which is a clinic run by Dr. Chaudhry, our profound colleague and respected physician, one of the best, who dedicated his time for this clinic. And I saw 50 patients at least and personally witnessed the stories, the heartbreaking, painful events that they had encountered. And it touched me deeply to know them personally and to hear their, problems, and to comfort them as best as I could, and gained so much understanding firsthand about their ordeal. And while this exodus and post-exodus period, as community here in the USA, we became more sensitized to these issues, and we started creating a medical fund, which I was in charge of. And we were able to, through our membership, collect a significant amount of money, and we would get requests for patients that needed help. And so we have continued to do that for the last so many years now as it started. And I cannot tell you, it is more than 500 families, I would say easily, that we have been able to give them financial aid, because these people had nothing. They have no financial resources or very limited resources to go for treatment, and access to care also was not easy. So we hope that we can continue to provide this help to these people, and you will be glad to know that there is a hospital coming up in Jammu. It's called Bethesda Hospital, which is being run on by the community members who have donated their land, and they have built the structure. It's an outpatient facility now, but they are hoping to develop an inpatient, facility with operating rooms. And our KOA recently was able to provide the cardiac unit for them, so they can start doing some echocardiograms and stress tests, and help the community. And also it will allow them to raise some good bit of revenue so they can do further expansion of the project. It is really I was very blessed to go there, and I feel that I can tell you it's a community effort that we all need to contribute together. And we have been sending people, not I, but a lot of them have been volunteering themselves and going to Jammu to see the patients. We were hoping to create a camp this year. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we could not do it. It was scheduled to be in April of 2020. And we had a group of physicians that were planning to go and conduct this, clinic, camp for a few days. And but maybe next year or whenever it's possible that can be done. So I think we have a lot of good people in our community and with good hearts, expertise, and passionate to help out. And I think healthcare is one of the things that is very primary important. And I think we should all look forward to helping out as best as we can. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about this subject.
Thank you, Dr. Bhan, and thank you for all the work you have done. I think going forward, that's what we need to do. We need to internationally all collaborate. We have got excellent doctors like yourself who can give expert advice on this, and people like Dharna who are really carrying a tradition forward. So we need to find a way of combining all the healthcare models and work out which one is the best, because as you said, the community has suffered quite a lot. We heard about our Ayurvedic traditions and how things used to be there, how, what kind of holistic therapies we used to use. And from there, we are in a situation now where people are suffering immensely, both physically and emotionally. So thank you, Dr. Bhan, for your expertise on that. So on that note, I would like to thank you both, Dharna and Dr. Bhan, for spending time talking about Kashmir and its rich traditions. Namaskar.
Thank you.